A slow breath slipped past my lips as steady hands guided me upward. The movement was effortless and sure. The space around me shifted before my back met something softer, a change I barely registered. My bedroom. The room was quiet, the air heavy with something unspoken. A voice broke the silence. Smooth, yet unreadable. A pause followed, weighted with the moment's intensity. And then everything changed. Before we continue, please do me a quick favor like this video and hit subscribe. It's fast, easy, and makes a huge difference. Plus, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's dive in. My body felt warm, restless with an energy I couldn't ignore. My fingers trailed over the thin fabric of my robe, teasing gently, savouring the quiet indulgence. It wasn't enough. I wanted more. My Brooklyn apartment was silent. No one to hear. No one to interrupt. Then, a buzz. The vibration of my phone against the nightstand startled me. I sighed, reaching for it, ready to dismiss whatever late-night notification had disrupted the moment. But then I saw the name on the screen, Jake, my son-in-law. We're nearby. Mind if we stop by for a drink? Not just him them. I sat up, my pulse unsteady, rereading the message. I wasn't expecting company. Certainly not them. It was late. I wasn't dressed for guests, and I wasn't in the mood for small talk in my cozy Brooklyn living room. I started to ignore it, but another message flashed across the screen. Come on. Don't be boring. We won't stay long. I exhaled heavily. Boring, he always said that. Jake knew how to get under my skin. Fine, all right, but just one drink, I replied. 15 minutes later. I stood by the kitchen island in my open-plan living room, wineglass in hand, when the knock came. The moment I opened the door, I felt it something was different. Jake smirked, his eyes flicking over me in a way I couldn't ignore. His friend Mike stood just behind him, watching. Their presence felt heavier than it should have. When they stepped inside, too confident, too comfortable. I knew this wasn't just a casual visit to my Brooklyn apartment. I should have told them to leave. But I didn't. I shut the door behind them. And the night began. I placed the wine bottle on the kitchen island, my fingers curling against the glass. Their voices hummed around me, but I wasn't really listening. The air felt charged, heavier than before, not just from the heat, but from them. I poured my drink first, slow and deliberate. Jake stretched back into the couch in the living room, his movements easy, relaxed, as if he had all the time in the world. His friends, Mike and Chris, were watching me. Didn't think you'd actually say yes, Jake mused, swirling the amber wine in his glass. Figured you'd tell us to go find a bar in Williamsburg or somewhere. I scoffed, lifting my glass. I almost did. Mike, with sharp eyes, tilted his head. So why didn't you? I met his gaze over the rim of my glass, but didn't answer. A quiet smirk played at his lips before he leaned back, unconcerned. Chris, broader and quieter, tilted his drink toward me, his eyes steady. You always this quiet? I exhaled softly. Depends on the company. He grinned. And what kind of company are we? I should have laughed, brushed it off, but I didn't. A hand brushed mine when I passed the bottle across the island. The touch should have been fleeting, but it wasn't. Neither of us moved away. A second stretched too long before I finally pulled back. "Relax," Jake murmured, his voice dipping lower. "We're just having a drink." His fingers tapped against the rim of his glass, slow and deliberate. The ice had already cracked, and there was no stopping what came next. The wine had settled in my veins. But that wasn't the only thing warming me. It was them, the way they sat around me. Their presence undeniable. Their attention never drifted, each glance heavier than before. I ran a fingertip over the rim of my glass, not for them, but for myself, just to feel something under my touch. "You're quiet," Mike murmured, his voice low enough that only I could hear. I tilted my head, a small smirk teasing my lips. "Observant, aren't you?" He held my gaze. Didn't expect that from someone who invited us into their Brooklyn pad this late. I let my eyes flick between them, feeling the weight of their attention. I didn't shrink from it. I let them look. "Maybe you don't know what to expect from me." A hum of approval came from Chris across the room. "I think we're starting to." The bottle shifted across the island. As Mike poured, his fingers skimmed the inside of my thigh. Not by accident. I could have ignored it. Could have shifted away. Broken the moment. I didn't. Instead, I parted my legs just enough for him to notice. His breath hitched. Not much. But I caught it. The corner of his lips curled. Slow and knowing. "She likes a little trouble," Chris murmured. It wasn't a tease, it was a fact. His hand slid higher, fingers teasing just beneath the hem of my robe. My pulse jumped, but I didn't stop him. I leaned in, and then his lips brushed against mine, just once, just enough to feel the warmth of him, the taste of wine lingering between us. I tilted my chin up, parting my lips slightly in invitation. The restraint shattered. The kiss deepened, urgent and unrestrained. His hand tightened against my thigh as my breath hitched. My fingers curled into the fabric of his shirt, pulling him closer, letting him take what he wanted. A presence shifted beside me. I felt the weight of another gaze, the air thickening around us. I knew we weren't alone, and I liked it. The warmth of Mike's kiss still tingled on my lips, a quiet hum beneath my skin. Before I could catch my breath, Chris moved closer, more deliberate. A slow inhale escaped me as lips brushed the curve of my neck, lingering, testing. Each breath sent a faint shiver along my spine, a whisper of warmth and anticipation curling through me. Hands, strong and sure, trailed along my sides, their touch feather-light yet intentional, tracing the dip of my waist. My stomach tightened in response. A soft exhale parted my lips, my body acutely aware of every shift, every movement surrounding me. Another touch, this time lower, grazed my thigh. The gesture was unhurried, testing the space between us, lingering just enough to leave a question in its wake. The answer was clear. A low murmur stirred the air near my ear, laced with quiet amusement from Jake. "Told you she'd love this." I didn't need to speak, my body had already answered. My breath came quicker as I leaned into them, drawn by the weight of their presence. Their hands wandered, each touch unhurried yet deliberate. A slow path of lips trailed over my shoulder, following the curve of my collarbone. A teasing scrape of teeth sent a ripple through me. deepened as fingertips followed, leaving a map of warmth and quiet tension. My fingers sought one of them, I wasn't even sure who anymore, but I felt the sharp inhale beneath my palm. The way his muscles tensed under my touch, something shifted. No hesitation. No second guessing. I was surrounded, enveloped in a space where instinct took over. Every glance exchanged between them carried an unspoken agreement. Their hands explored, memorizing, learning. The moment unravelled slowly, seamless and immersive, leaving nothing but sensation. 1 second I was by the couch in the living room, the next, steady hands guided me upward. My body followed without thought, the movement effortless and unhurried. A softer surface met my back before I registered the change my bedroom. A quiet breath slipped past my lips, my pulse thrumming beneath my skin. Before I could take another breath, they were with me again, and this time, no barriers held the moment back. The bed barely settled beneath me before warmth surrounded me, drawing me deeper. Lips met mine, unhurried at first, then growing more certain as silent conversation carried in every movement. The gentle pressure of fingers traced along my robe, easing the fabric aside with measured intent. A slow shiver coursed through me as the material slipped away, gliding over my skin before resting somewhere unseen. The shift in sensation made my breath catch, anticipation threading through every inch of me. I exhaled softly, letting my head sink back as a quiet murmur brushed against my ear, low and smooth, threaded with something undeniable from Mike, even better than I imagined. A warmth stirred deep inside me as hands explored, unhurried yet deliberate, mapping the contours of my form with careful reverence. My fingers curled into the sheets as their touch deepened, the movement seamless, as if they had always known me this way. The steady press of hands against my waist anchored me, grounding me in the rising intensity between us. A slow inhale, a breath released in measured control, and then a heat spread through me, deliberate and encompassing, settling into my core. My senses sharpened, my awareness heightened. The rhythm of their touch shifted, measured, yet certain, every movement flowing effortlessly into the next, drawing me into a connection that felt both new and familiar. Lips found mine again, capturing the quiet sounds that slipped between us. A firm hand tilted my chin, a thumb grazing my bottom lip, an unspoken invitation, waiting for a response. I answered without hesitation, deepening the connection, allowing the warmth to build. Fingers combed through my hair, drawing me closer, breaths mingling in the space between. The energy between us coalesced into something seamless, fluid, instinctive. A deep inhale left Chris as he lingered, letting the sensation settle before easing away. The warmth still pulsed beneath my skin, my body attuned to every shift. A moment passed, just enough for anticipation to bloom again. Before I could process it, Jake took over. His touch different, yet equally certain, setting a new rhythm. This time, the pace was exploratory, savouring, appreciating, making every second stretch with intent. A quiet sound left me, my fingers curling against the fabric beneath me as I yielded to the shift, letting them guide me through every new sensation. The bed shifted beneath us, the air thick with warmth, the energy moving between us palpable. Jake leaned in, breath teasing the sensitive skin near my ear. The words, spoken smooth and certain, carried a quiet promise. We're just getting started. Fingers drifted along my arm, grounding me in the moment. Another kiss, deeper this time, more knowing, set a new tempo, pulling me further into the indulgence. I allowed myself to be guided, effortlessly surrendering to the pull, to the way their movements aligned. Every transition was smooth and fluid. Hands glided lower, deliberate yet patient, mapping the curves of my body with quiet appreciation, ensuring every touch resonated fully. A mouth traced a slow path along my shoulder, lingering in the hollow just below, sending a quiet shiver through me. I was lost in it, the shifting momentum, the way everything aligned in perfect harmony, as though it had always been meant to be this way. There was no stopping now. The movement grew more consuming, the energy between us building, drawing me higher, carrying me deeper. A breath hitched in my throat as hands traced my form. The connection deepening. Every motion flowed seamlessly into the next. Mike moved lower, fingers pressing gently, coaxing me to remain exactly where I was, ensuring I felt every nuance of the moment. A satisfied murmur filled the space as the intensity climbed. Every shift in pace carrying an unspoken understanding. The warmth spread deeper, threading through every inch of me, taking hold completely. A deep, reverberating sound left him as my body responded, drawn into every lingering touch, every wave of sensation. The moment expanded, all-consuming, pulling me fully into its grasp. I let go completely, allowing the tension to dissolve, unraveling in waves that coursed through me. Every part of me was attuned to the rhythm between us. The warmth lingered, refusing to fade, moving through me in steady pulses, unrelenting in its hold, carrying me further until everything slowed, settled, and stilled. I collapsed onto the sheets, my chest rising and falling, my breath still unsteady, my body humming with the weight of everything we had shared. Soft touches still drifted along my skin, lazy and indulgent, as though they weren't quite ready to let go. Fingers trailed idly over my hip, tracing delicate patterns, imprinting the moment into memory. A mouth pressed a lingering kiss against my shoulder, a presence settling close beside me, radiating warmth. A low voice, smooth and teasing, murmured near my ear from Jake. Think that's enough for tonight. I lay there, the Brooklyn skyline faintly visible through the bedroom window, its distant lights casting a soft glow across the room. My heart still raced, but a strange calm settled over me. The weight of the night pressed against my chest, not heavy, but grounding, like an anchor in the chaos of my thoughts. I turned my head slightly, catching Jake's eyes. They held a glint of amusement, but beneath it, something deeper, something unspoken. Mike shifted on the bed, his hand resting lightly on my arm, while Chris leaned back against the headboard, his gaze steady but softened, as if he, too, was savouring the stillness. The air in the room felt different now, not charged with the earlier intensity, but thick with a quiet intimacy. I could hear the faint hum of the city outside, cars passing on the street below, the occasional siren cutting through the night. It reminded me where I was, tethered me to this moment in my Brooklyn apartment. Yet everything felt surreal, like I'd stepped into a version of myself I hadn't known existed. I propped myself up on one elbow, the sheets cool against my skin. Enough, I echoed Jake's question, my voice low, teasing, but with an edge of curiosity. You tell me, Jake chuckled, a sound that vibrated through the quiet. You're full of surprises, he said, his fingers brushing a stray lock of hair from my face. The gesture was gentle, almost tender, and it caught me off guard. I wasn't used to this side of him, Jake, who always pushed boundaries, who knew exactly how to unravel me with a single word. Mike's hand tightened slightly on my arm. Not possessive, but present. I think we're all wondering where this goes next, he said, his voice quieter than before, almost contemplative. His eyes searched mine, as if looking for an answer I wasn't sure I had. Chris, still leaning against the headboard, tilted his head. You don't strike me as someone who backs down from a challenge, he said, a faint smirk playing at his lips. So, what's it gonna be? I let the question hang in the air, my gaze drifting between them. The room felt smaller now, not because of the space, but because of the weight of their presence. The way their voices and touches lingered like echoes. I wasn't the same person who'd opened the door an hour ago, hesitant and guarded. Something had shifted, and I wasn't sure if it was them or me or both. I sat up fully, pulling the sheet around me, not out of modesty, but because the cool fabric grounded me. The city lights flickered outside, a reminder of the world beyond these walls. You're all awfully sure of yourselves, I said, my tone light but pointed. What makes you think I'm the one deciding where this goes? Jake raised an eyebrow, his smirk returning. Because you're the one who let us in, he said, his voice carrying that familiar edge of challenge. You could have sent us to some dive bar in Williamsburg, but you didn't. I laughed softly, the sound surprising even me. Maybe I was just curious, I said, meeting his gaze. Maybe I wanted to see how far you'd push. Mike leaned closer, his breath warm against my shoulder. And how far's that, he asked, his voice low, almost a whisper. There was no mockery in it, just a quiet intensity that made my pulse quicken again. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I let my eyes drift to the window, to the Brooklyn skyline, stretching out into the night. The city was alive, pulsing with energy, just like the room around me. I could feel their gazes, waiting, but I wasn't ready to give them an answer, not yet. The truth was, I didn't know where this was going. The night had unfolded in ways I hadn't expected, peeling back layers of myself I'd kept hidden. Even from me. I turned back to them, my lips curving into a faint smile. You're still here, I said simply. That's something. Chris laughed, a low, warm sound that broke the tension. Fair enough, he said, shifting to sit closer. His hand rested on the bed near mine, not touching but close enough that I could feel the warmth of it. But you're dodging the question. Am I? I tilted my head, letting the moment stretch. Or maybe I'm just enjoying this for what it is. Jake leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, his eyes locked on mine. And what is it, exactly, he asked. There was no teasing in his voice now, just a quiet curiosity that mirrored my own. I didn't have an answer, not a clear one. Anyway, The night had been a whirlwind of sensation, of boundaries crossed and walls torn down. But now, in the quiet aftermath, I felt something else, a strange clarity, like I'd glimpsed a part of myself I hadn't known was there. I wasn't sure if it scared me or thrilled me or both. I leaned back against the headboard, mirroring Chris's posture, and let out a slow breath. "It's a moment," I said finally, one I didn't see coming. "But I'm not running from it." Mike's hand moved to my knee, a gentle pressure that felt reassuring rather than demanding. "Good," he said softly, "because I don't think any of us are ready to walk away just yet." The room fell quiet again. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that held space for everything unsaid, for the possibilities that lingered just beyond reach. I looked at them, Jake, with his sharp edges and disarming charm, Mike, with his quiet intensity and steady presence, Chris, with his easy confidence and knowing smile. They were different, each of them, but together they'd created something I couldn't quite name. I shifted, letting the sheet fall slightly, not caring any more about the vulnerability it exposed. "So, what now?" I asked, my voice steady despite the uncertainty swirling in my chest. "You got what you came for? Or is there more?" Jake's eyes darkened, but not with the earlier hunger. There was something softer there, something that made my breath catch. "We didn't come here expecting this," he said, his voice low. "But I'm not complaining." Chris nodded, his fingers brushing against mine, a fleeting touch that sent a spark through me. "You're not what I expected," he said, his tone almost reverent, and I mean that in the best way. I felt a warmth spread through me, not the burning intensity of earlier, but something quieter, more enduring. I looked at Mike, waiting for him to say something. But he just watched me, his expression unreadable yet open. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're not the only one figuring this out as you go," he said. "We're right there with you." The honesty in his words hit me harder than I expected. I'd let them in, let this night unfold, but I hadn't realized how much they'd been pulled into it too. We were all navigating this uncharted space, each of us caught in the gravity of the moment. I glanced out the window again, the Brooklyn skyline a steady backdrop to the chaos of my thoughts. The city was still there, still moving. But in this room, time felt suspended. I could hear the faint rhythm of my own breathing, the soft rustle of the sheets as someone shifted. The air was warm, heavy with the scent of wine, and something else, something intangible, like the afterglow of a storm. "Let's not decide tonight," I said finally, my voice soft but firm. "Let's just be here." Jake's lips curved into a smile, not his usual smirk, but something genuine. "I can live with that," he said, leaning back beside me, his shoulder brushing against mine. Mike nodded, his hand still resting on my knee. A quiet anchor. "Works for me," he said, his eyes holding mine for a moment longer than necessary. Chris stretched, his movement casual but deliberate, like he was settling in for the long haul. "Guess we're staying a bit longer then," he said, his tone light but his gaze steady. I didn't respond, but I didn't need to. The silence spoke for me, a quiet agreement that this wasn't the end, not yet. The night had shifted something in me, in all of us, and I wasn't ready to let it go. I leaned back, letting the warmth of their presence surround me, the city humming softly outside. For now, this was enough. The hours slipped by, the conversation drifting to lighter things, stories about late nights in Brooklyn dive bars, the time Jake got stuck in a subway car with a street performer who wouldn't stop singing, Mike's obsession with finding the perfect pizza slice in the city. We laughed, the sound filling the room, easing the weight of what had come before. But beneath it all, there was an undercurrent, a shared understanding that this night had changed something fundamental. As the first hints of dawn crept through the window, painting the skyline in soft pinks and golds, I felt a pang of something I couldn't name. Regret, relief, or maybe just the ache of knowing this moment couldn't last forever. I looked at them. Jake sprawled across the bed, Mike sitting up with a glass of water he'd grabbed from the kitchen, Chris leaning against the window, watching the city wake up. "You guys should go," I said, my voice quieter than I intended. "Before the neighbours start gossiping." Jake laughed, but there was no edge to it. "Let 'em talk," he said, but he stood anyway, stretching. "You sure you're okay?" I nodded, pulling the sheet tighter around me. "I'm good," I said. And I meant it. This was unexpected. But I'm good. Mike stood too, his movements slow, deliberate. He paused by the bed, his hand brushing my shoulder. "You know where to find us," he said, his voice low, almost a promise. Chris pushed off the window, his smile soft but knowing. "This doesn't feel like goodbye," he said, and I couldn't help but smile back. "It's not," I said simply, "but go, I need to sleep." They gathered their things, their movements unhurried, like they were reluctant to break the spell. Jake paused at the door, turning back to me. "You're trouble," he said, but there was a warmth in his voice I hadn't heard before. The best kind. I rolled my eyes, but my smile betrayed me. "Get out of here," I said, waving them off. The door closed behind them. The sound soft but final. I sat there for a moment, the silence of the apartment wrapping around me. The city was waking up outside, the hum of Brooklyn growing louder as the sun rose. I lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling, my body still tingling with the memory of their touch, their voices, their presence. I didn't know what came next. I didn't need to. For the first time in a long time, I felt alive, unburdened, like I'd reclaimed a part of myself I'd forgotten existed. The night had been a risk, a leap into the unknown, but it had been worth it. I closed my eyes, letting the warmth linger, knowing that whatever happened next, I was ready. Most people wouldn't believe this could happen, but if it were you, would you stop it or let it unfold? Be honest if you were in this moment. Would you step away or stay right where you are? Maybe even take it further? Drop your answer in the comments. Before you go, don't forget to like this video and hit subscribe. It's free, takes just a second, and ensures you never miss what's coming next. Turn on the notification bell, trust me, you won't want to be late for the next story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.